But I had an occasion to interface and interact with a group of persons on the weekend. They weren't wearing masks, and they just didn't see the need for it. And a lot of it is just ignorance. They simply just don't know. I mean, it's a tough time. Sometimes we stand at this podium and believe that we are speaking to the world, and the world is hearing us. And that is not the case. There is a percentage of Jamaicans who will listen to us, who will heed our admonitions and warnings. There is a percentage of Jamaicans who will listen to Dr. Lindsay. But there is a vast number of Jamaicans who tune out. As far as they're concerned, COVID is not their problem. The public health risk that their behavior creates is not a concern to them because they don't see their behavior as creating a public health risk. And as far as they're concerned, why should they be prevented from enjoying their life and pursuing their happiness because someone with weakened immunity or other immunocompromised situations needs to be protected and shielded? Can't we find a better way so that we only shield those who will have an adverse impact from the disease while everybody else gets to pursue their happiness? And there are those who genuinely feel that way and will not follow the protocols. And there are those who consider it an affront to suggest that they should take a vaccine. How dare you impose on me to put something in my body that I don't want? And, you know, I see it in the cabinet, I see it in discussions with persons. It's very difficult for the persons who hold differing perspectives to see the other perspective. It's very difficult. There are those who feel that those who want to just go about and live, they are selfish. And those who just want to go about and enjoy their life can't understand why they should sacrifice for those who are vulnerable and weak. And it's a real challenge in the society. So the government can't just pursue one hard line. The government has to balance. So it has to give a little here and then take back and then give a little here. And it is a very difficult position for any government in a democracy to be in, because it requires the government to impose on persons requirements and restrictions that infringe on individual rights. And this is not a position that I take lightly. And I mean, no one wants the pandemic to end more than I do, because we spend so much time as a government trying to deal with it, and we are distracted by other things. So we have reached a point in the cabinet today, and I believe other members of the society have reached that point as well. I've gotten a few calls from members of the private sector saying that, you know, we can't continue imposing restrictions and locking down, and that is not a long-term solution. The various partners and stakeholders and citizens have sacrificed quite a bit. It hasn't come to the fore. People don't see the number of persons who can't pay their mortgages, who are on the fringe of losing their homes, the businesses that are about to collapse. The average person not seeing all of those things, and that's partially due to how the government has managed the pandemic. They're not seeing the households that just don't have income and don't have food. And that's, again, you know, the government has managed the pandemic in a particular way with ensuring that we do conditional and non-conditional cash transfers to households. So, by and large, you know, there is a sense that there is normalcy. But seething underneath this sense of normalcy are many threats, including the threat of civil unrest and social disruption, which the government has to pay keen attention to. And sometimes the argument will come, oh, the government isn't following the science. I urge people to be careful about what you say and think very carefully, very deeply. If the government were following the science, the government would mandate vaccines. In managing the pandemic, the government has to consider everything. We have to consider what the CMO recommends and the science recommends. We have to look at what other countries are doing, and we have to look at the investments in the country. We have to look at people's employment. We have to look at people's lack of income. We have to look at the psychological and emotional fatigue that people are under. And then we come to a balanced decision. It is that balance that has kept the society together. There are those whose whole existence is to tear that balance apart, to find critiques and criticisms that are not founded, not properly thought out. But in that balance is also that right to do it, because they keep us on our toes and they ensure that we have to think very carefully about what we do as a government. And I want to assure this nation that you have a government that listens, that cares, and that takes the right decision to keep the country stable and on a path to recovery.